Hi folks, I just wanted to talk quickly here about this UFO which appears on stereo behind Cor1. There's some YouTube videos about this, a lot of people talking about it, so I just wanted to address it and show you what it's really all about. You see this circular object suddenly appear on stereo behind Cor1 on June 17th. It seems to appear out of nowhere, and it appears to be stationary. So what is it? Is it aliens? Well, unfortunately not. It's something much more dull than that. And once again, as I always say, before jumping to conclusions about anything in stereo images and the like, go to the raw data. Open up the raw FITS files and see what you see. And usually you're going to find the answer to your mystery right there, and that is once again the case here. If we load up the raw FITS file so that you can get off the FTP on the stereo website, you can see that there's all these donuts all over the image. And this is not a new phenomenon. These didn't suddenly appear on June 17th. If you go back to 2009 and download an image, you'll see the same pattern. So these are just dust particles and debris that have collected on the optics, and because the optics are focused on the much more distant solar corona, the debris is completely out of focus, and as a result it only shows a reflection of the shape of the optics themselves, which have a central obstruction from the occulting disk, and that produces the donut shape that you see. Now normally they do a lot of processing to these images. The raw FITS files that you can download are just that, the raw FITS files prior to any sort of processing. But the processing that they do involves a lot of contrast enhancement, as well as a subtraction of a median combination of images from a previous day to eliminate artifacts like these. But if any of these dust motes move, or if any new dust motes land on the optics between the calibration frame and the current image, it will suddenly appear out of nowhere, and you'll see just that dust mote, whatever has moved or is new. Now in this case, it appears that there's no new dust motes. The number of dust motes appears to be stable. Even if you look back on 2009, you can see the offending dust mote right here, but it has moved a little bit, just enough to throw off the calibration frame. So if you do a median combine of raw FITS files from the previous day on June 16th, and you subtract that from an image on June 17th after the UFO appears, let's see, you'll see the UFO in the image. There it is. And I'll zoom in on it so you can see that it is indeed the same thing you just saw in the YouTube video. There it is. And it's just that particle of dust, which is not being properly subtracted. And that's because it's moved a little bit between the calibration image and the current image. So this is my calibration image here that I've created from the FITS files on June 16th. And you can see it's still there, but the spacing between that dust mote and this dust mote down here is a little bit different, just ever so slightly different than on June 17th. So it became dislodged a little bit, maybe rolled over a little bit, and is now in a new position, which is not being properly calibrated for. Now once they create a new calibration frame, it will vanish from the images. But in the meantime, you can see it sitting there. You can't see the others because they're still being properly subtracted. And that's really all there is to it. So if I take a series of images from June 17th from a few minutes before this image and do a median combine, I can create my own calibration frame, which is now much more appropriate and gets rid of that UFO. So this is image 3. If I subtract that from this image over here, you'll see it vanishes. There's no UFO there. Now, I know it's much darker. You can see in the brightness enhanced version here, it's not there. It's much darker because there's very little difference between an image, a median combined image that's only a few minutes old compared to a current image. So that's why they don't normally just take images from just a few minutes before and subtract them from the current one. They usually do it from a day before or even several days before so that you can see the details of the solar corona very easily. So that's all there is to it, really. That's really all this is. And you can download the raw FITS files once again off the stereo website FTP, and that's how you find the answer to a lot of these mysteries, including this one. It's not a UFO, it's not extraterrestrials, it's just dust, unfortunately. This has happened before. I think it's been a few years, but it does occasionally happen where one of these dust particles moves a little bit or becomes dislodged and lands on the optics, and suddenly you have a new a new UFO in the images for a little while. So that's all there is. That's all there is to it. Hope you have a nice day.